This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is Mr. Kent French. He is a sports broadcaster for Bally Sports, which used to be
It sounds like a casino,
Fox.
doesn't it? Yeah, it don't work for a casino. Yeah, it used to be Fox Sports West and Prime Ticket, and then Sinclair bought the regionals, and then they sold the naming rights to Bally, so we're Bally Sports. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
cool.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
being
man,
here.
thanks for having me. This is awesome.
And so tell us a little bit about your backstory, your background, and kind of what's led you to what you're doing now.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I mean, people ask me that a lot, and I go, "How much time do you got?" Because it's like one of those things. It just it was those unconventional paths, I guess you could say. But it's been fun. I mean, in my late 20s, I kind of hit a point in my life where I was like, "What the hell do I want to do?" And the advice I give people all the time now too is it's like, what do you put your mind to what you enjoy doing and make a career out of it? And the big thing for me was sports. Always loved playing it, being around it. So I decided, what the heck, let's jump into sports broadcasting and see if I can make a go at that. So I took a class at Long Beach City College. Started working at a golf course part-time to make extra money. Sold magazines at the back of my car. OC Weekly, baby.
Dang.
Yeah, I got driver of the month I was.
That's cool.
And started doing that. And one of my teachers at Long Beach City College introduced me. She worked at KFWB radio back in the day. And so I started talked myself into a gig over there and was doing overnight production, working at the golf course in the morning. I'd finish my shift at 3 a.m. and get to the course by 6 and work there, kind of double shift it, and just kind of did that for a while. And then started working at met somebody at KFWB who worked at a cable station, and she got me in there. My professor, actually. She got me into KFWB, and then she got me into what we call, it used to be called Century Communications, then it was Adelphia, then it was Time Warner, and then now it's something else. I don't even know what the hell. They just keep moving on. From then on, it was teaching myself how to shoot a camera and edit, and they were kind enough just to give me a camera and let me do my thing, and I became the sports reporter on this cable telecast. And then I said I want to start a sports show, so I did, called Sports Link. So I drive around with a camera and a microphone. I interview Little League, high school, college, and then I'd do Ducks and Angels. Got myself in there as well. And I had a show there. Then I started covering high school football. Would carry my camera around 4 games every Friday, Thursday and Friday.
Sheesh.
And we put together a football show called The Fourth Quarter. So my buddy and I hosted that. And then my passion's baseball growing up. So the best thing is, you can tell, I just kind of they gave me the freedom just to start whatever I kind of wanted. So I just continued to add programming, which was great. I started a show called This Week in Angels Baseball in 2002. And so I'd go and did an entire half-hour show on the Angels. And as you might recall, 2002 is when they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
So I followed them there. My buddies were holding microphones in the locker room because I was shooting, and it was just kind of a one-man band. And my best friend was out on the field with me when they won the World Series.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man. And then the Ducks liked what I was doing, and they said, "Hey, can Adelphia do a show for us?" And so I started a show called Center Ice. In 2003, you might remember, that's when the Ducks went to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I was like back to back.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? This is awesome. My buddy flew me to New Jersey.
That's so cool.
With the camera,
That
and
is
he
so
held
cool.
he held the mic. We
you
still
were
tell
there
the
for
story.
it.
Yeah. And I was there for every game. It was great. And along the way, I interviewed in Bakersfield for Channel 4, and I got offered a job as a sideline reporter there to do weekend sports. But I just didn't want to be away from Southern California.
Yeah.
Because in the industry, and I think still today as well, but I think more back in the day, it's like, they consider LA the number 2 market, New York number 1. And they want you, if you want to stay here, you got to go, okay, let's go to Green Bay or go to Wisconsin, go to a smaller market and kind of work your way back.
Yeah.
So if I went to Bakersfield, hell, I didn't know where I'd end up. It doesn't mean I would just come back here. So I'm like, I'm going to stick it out and make it work. And I did some stuff for Speed Channel, got in with them, did some stuff there, and I just kind of stuck it out, man. And then when the Ducks and Angels sold, Disney owned both, and when they sold the Angels, everybody split. And so it opened up some jobs over at the Ducks, and I got to know some of the people over there, and Rod Murray, who was director of entertainment, got to know him well, and he's like, hey, you want to come over and be a production manager? I'm like, hell, I don't know anything really about being a production manager. I want to be in front of the camera. And he's like, we want a different perspective. We want someone to come in with a different mindset and kind of a new set of eyes on this whole thing. He's like, and we'll give you the opportunity to still do stuff on air. I'm like, all right. So I was production manager, had a staff of like 25 on game days. But it's one of those things, as you guys probably know, you hire people that are more intelligent than you are to make it work. I got some incredible people that I was fortunate enough to bring in who's still with the organization now. They're good friends of mine. So it was awesome. Very, very lucky. And just continued to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to be on air. I still want to do this. And I finally got an opportunity to do it with KDOC, which was still around, but some Ducks games were airing on KDOC. So they let me step in, and then eventually it moved to Fox, gave me a kick at the can, and then it just kind of moved on from there. I was doing sideline and got to do some Angel stuff too. And so thanks to good fortune and I guess hard work, you could say, and that I've been working for Fox now, Bally's, for I can't even remember, something like 10 plus years now. So I'm hosting pre and post game shows for both the Ducks and for the Angels, which is truly a dream. I mean, I love both organizations. I'm from Orange County, from here. I mean, it's awesome, So that's the edited, abridged version of how I got here. Sorry to talk so long. No, but I think it's hopefully that gives you a kind of an idea of how I got here.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Like, just from what we were saying, like off air, but like I've known you for a while now, and I've been a Ducks fan since they started.
Yeah.
And so to just see how that's all, or hear how you've got there is kind of cool. Like for me as a fan, I mean, I'm not a big baseball guy. I know that's your passion. Like hockey's mine.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, baseball. I can't go to a Ducks game with all this intensity, fighting, roughness, and then go watch baseball, and I'm like, where's the 7th inning stretch? I'm ready to go.
You can't. They're so different. And you make a great point, because I think when I started working for the Ducks organization, so I do work, I was hired by the Ducks as production manager, and I still do some part-time work. So I've been with that organization for 17 years, the Ducks. And that's kind of like my family, away from home. And this industry, we travel too. So I'm on the road. Before COVID, I was on the road about 150 days a year.
Wow.
So that, we talk about silver linings and stuff. It's nice to be home. But what I was going to say, Ben, to you is, like, I tell people all the time, once I got into hockey, I have such a respect for those athletes and what they put themselves through. And I always say they're a combination of all the other athletes.
Yeah.
Cardiovascular, of basketball, soccer, physicality, football, hand-eye, of baseball. And you put that all together, and that's what a hockey player is.
Yeah.
And these guys are on the bike before the game, during the intermissions.
Yep.
They get stitched up, go back out. They're on the bike after the game to warm down. And you have to go see the game in person. It doesn't translate. It still doesn't translate to TV.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing with hockey, is it's such a spectator sport. It's so fun. Even as much like football, there's the timeouts, the TV timeouts. If you go to an NFL game, it's like, what in the world's going on?
It's like
and
every
baseball is
5
slow
minutes.
now. It's even slower. I mean, now we're looking at 3.5 to 4 hours a game, and they're trying to speed it up. They're trying to do things to speed it up. But yeah, hockey is so unique. And the athletes are so cool, and they come from the background of, not that the other sports don't, I'm not trying to take away from it, but they go to billet families, they go away from home at an early age too. So there is they're just a different type of an athlete.
Yeah.
And that I've noticed. But yeah, it's been a fun ride getting to know that sport. For someone who grew up playing baseball and always wanted to play at Angel Stadium growing up as a pro, this is the next best thing that I can do.
That's insane. I know, because I grew up playing hockey.
Yeah.
So I've always said it, like, so it's cool hearing your perspective of it, but hockey players, I've said it for so long, but I think people are just like, oh, you say it because that's what you play.
Yeah.
They're genuinely like, in my opinion, I think that they're like the best athletes, all around athlete. They might not be great at like one thing,
Sure.
but all around, like you said, it combines everything. You got to worry about getting hit when you're skating 20 miles an hour, by a 250-pound guy. You got to be able to still be agile. You got to be quick. You have to be able to think fast. And I don't think they get enough credit sometimes.
And you're skating on knives.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that. It's like everybody, they have these Teflon that they wear on their wrists and the neck and underneath their uniform, because if they fall down, those blades are so sharp.
Yeah.
They slice right through the uniform and they'll slice you.
Cut you.
Yeah, and they cut you. And there's been some horrific injuries.
You can't see it as much now, but I have a scar right here.
Oh, I can see
That's
it.
from a blade through
Yeah.
my elbow pad.
Yeah, it's
Through the
insane.
pad?
Through the pad.
So think about this. You got guys now, like even, in football, 280, running whatever down a 4 whatever down the line. It's like, it's incredible. The athlete now is so much more, is quicker, stronger, faster, kind of this bionic type person. But you put him on ice and you're flying and you're hitting
Yeah.
somebody that hard. It's
scary.
It's pretty amazing.
I think there's so much science behind being an athlete too. Like I was a fighter before, and to see just the progression, like you were saying, of the athlete is insane. There's trainers that are dedicated to just figuring out what is the best way for you to lose weight, what's the best way for you to gain weight, what is your optimal heart rate and your blood type. It's just crazy. But to that point, is it because you guys are on different side of the spectrum as far as the athlete and the broadcaster, but being around all that greatness and all that dedication, does that make you want to step up and say, no, look, like I'm going to challenge myself to not be at their same level because you're doing different things, but is that motivating for you to watch that greatness and be able to witness it and then say, yeah, I can be great at what I do as well?
Yeah, and it goes down to work ethic, and you see these guys that, they take a week or 2 weeks off after the season, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they go right back to work.
Oh, yeah.
I think one thing, and you don't realize now how much film is involved too,
Yeah.
in looking at, the play or how you're doing or whatever it means, breaking it down, pitchers breaking their motion down, hitters, their swing, whatever sport you're in. And that's something too that broadcasters do. They look at film. I hate it. I hate it. I don't do it enough. It's like I don't watch myself. I don't enjoy it. But you pick up ticks, and if I say a lot, or if I say, or whatever it may be, different things I might repeat. So you do need to practice and work on it, and you need to look at people, put yourself with others that you really want to, hopefully someday you'll be able to hit that level. You know, and I always, I'm not as much as, and I guess the easier way to say it is, I've always learned when you're comfortable, get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because when you're comfortable, you're not really growing. You're not getting any better necessarily. There are some people who like to be comfortable and like to live in that space, and that's great. For me, though, I don't, and so I try to challenge myself in that way, put myself in different situations, and try different things.
Yeah, that's
What I was going to say, what are some of the ways that you do challenge yourself? Like, do you, I mean...
Yeah, I know. That's a great question. I think what I used to do, I still do it, but like I'll get a format, for instance, for a pregame show. It's 4 pages long. Okay, so one page, call it 1 page per segment. And I will literally go in and spend 2 hours and script out in my head, but I'll write it all down. Like, what if I was just doing the show now? Because we don't work with prompter, we don't work with anything. It's strictly just kind of, green light or the red light comes on, you go. So now I'm basically leaning more on, okay, I've prepped enough. I know this. I know more confidence, and let's just have fun.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be so rigid. Let's have fun. Let's joke around. If I see something, let's have a fun question. It's like you can ask, and when you ask questions too, it's like I'm kind of over the, take me through this play. What did you see on this play? Like there's this scripted questions that you get that you hear all the time. It's like, how can you ask it differently? And mind you, there are some times you have to, and I give all the credit in the world to sideline reporters, because I was one for a long time, and I still do some of it. But you got to ask the same question 50 different ways.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. Think outside the box. What's going to get the best reaction from the athlete? What's going to get the best reaction from your co-host? Have fun, joke around a little bit. Don't go off script, or you don't need to be perfect. And it's being just relaxed and having fun, and that's what brings out the best in you. It brings out the best in who you work with. And I think when the athletes are too tight and too tense, and you can learn from that, that's when they're not at their best.
Yeah.
It's when they're playing with confidence and having fun, that's when they're playing. And you could see it, like, for instance, Shohei Ohtani with the Angels. He's finally playing with confidence and he's having fun. He's comfortable in his skin here now in the U.S. and what he's doing. And it's showing on the field.
That's a good way to look at that, like the tenseness versus relax. I feel like that's where you're set up for the Ducks this last season. How hard was it for you guys to or was it even hard, but before, like if people haven't been to the Honda Center, like you guys are set up right in the front. It's like the heart, there's a buzz. It's electric when you walk in, like up to the Honda Center. This last year with COVID and how quiet that arena was, it was a ghost town. Was that hard for you guys to kind of stay focused or motivated? Because I feel like you guys kind of fed off the crowd for a lot of it, right?
And that's, and you could say for sure, like the athletes feel the same way. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like in the rink.
Yeah, playing
when you could hear the guys yelling at each other, calling for the puck or whatever it is, or being at a baseball game and hearing a guy say, "I got it," and you've never calling where are we? It was bizarre world. So yeah, you're right with the broadcasting, you definitely feed off it. It was kind of twofold though, because we usually in what we call a fish tank outside. I love the buzz, the people coming in, but unfortunately a lot of that was kind of taken away from us. We were kind of enclosed a little bit, which we like to be more interactive with the fans. But this year we are able, because we had extra space inside Honda Center, they made us a rink.
I saw that.
And we had a net, called it Rink 31.
Yep.
It was for Guy, and we got to do demos.
Which is cool.
That was the coolest thing. So that was the payoff of being able to have the extra space. But I mean, overall, fans sorely missed. Whether they're booing us or cheering us, I don't care. I think players feel the same way. It's awesome, and it creates energy. And that energy, you feed off it, and definitely elevates your game.
Yeah, I could not imagine. It's like there's more people in our beer league hockey games than there was watching the professional games.
Right? I know, I can't imagine. I can't even imagine.
To be an athlete that, you thrive off that stuff. When you get to a level, just like fighters, you get to a level I'm not trying to play a sport with no one watching, as my career. Like I got into this to get to a level, and I'm going to feed off people.
Well, yeah, you start playing in front of no one, and then you want to play in front of people or compete in front of people, and you do. You 100% you feed off that energy, 1,000%. So now, which one's your favorite to cup? No, I'm just playing. What?
Oh no, go ahead.
Do you have? So I loved boxing.
Yeah.
Historically.
Yep.
Muhammad Ali, was it Cosell that he had an awesome relationship with? Do you feel, I don't know the rules or if they're against it, but can you ever say, hey, ABC player, do you want to get lunch? Do you want to grab a beer? Or we're doing a segment, I want to get to know you a little bit better.
If it's surrounding, it probably could. I think I'm very careful about that. Mm-hmm. I definitely have, guys that are currently on the team and who are now retired and back around alumni that I definitely would call friends.
Yeah.
And do call friends. But I'm very careful about that relationship too. I think it's a lot of it. There's a trust factor as well, where I respect them and I want them to respect me, and them trusting me with telling me, because we'll go in the locker room and we'll chat with them and we'll get some inside scoop, and they'll trust that I'm not going to say anything, which I won't, but it just helps me prepare. Our head coach too gives us some insight, which for the Ducks, which is awesome, and he is trusting us with that. But so there's that. But getting back to what you're saying, I think more so after, I'd probably be more comfortable after they stop playing.
Okay.
I think probably if I were to, I don't know, if I were to, 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 if I reach out or whatever it was. But I think it'd be more of a mutual thing and just see where kind of organically, if it happens, we can hang out and make great. I think that's a great question. I'm trying to see
only because I asked it, because maybe it gives you, like you were saying, if you can have fun and enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't have to be. You're always gonna get the same answer. Hey, how was this? Oh, I prepared really hard. I trained, I practiced, and I watched a lot. It's always gonna be the same answer, because every athlete is going to train their butt off and they're gonna work hard to succeed. But my lens was, maybe if you can get to know them or hang out with them, there's going to be things that become a natural conversation. Where you can just because I don't know how much you get hassled for ratings or whatnot, but if the viewer can see, wow, this is a genuine relationship, but it's still a professional relationship, and Kent really knows him, and he's getting different answers than he would give.
And that's that. Okay, so let me answer that in a different way, because exactly what you're saying makes total sense. So yes, I do have, when it comes to relationships, because I've been covering the Ducks for so long, that and we're very fortunate to travel on the team plane and go on the buses. So during the season, it's my second family, around the guys all the time. So definitely those are relationships. I could talk to some guys on the plane or wherever it may be. There was a guy, Corbinian Holzer, who's playing for Germany now. He's not with the Ducks, remember? Holsey. I got to know him really well, and we would go out and do some segments. We called it the Ginger Road Tour. We'd go out and he'd take me to a burrito place in Toronto, or we'd go somewhere and do something for social media, and definitely there's guys on the team I can joke around with. When it comes to the Ducks, I feel like I can push the envelope a little bit and have fun. So I think, to what you're saying, there's a comfort, there's a relationship that you can sense and see. With the Angels, it's there's a couple guys there that I feel like I have a better relationship with, but not as good as the Ducks. And we're more on top of each other with the Ducks as a traveling staff. It's a smaller group, as opposed to the Angels, a little more separated. But like David Fletcher, for instance, is such a great guy, and we would do the segment called 5 with French and Fletch. Just joke around, and he was cool, and he was on my podcast with me as well. We just talked about driving a Tesla. Just got a Tesla. So we just and I don't want to, when I talk to him, I don't want to talk about baseball. Really. And you just want to talk, just be two guys talking like we are, just have fun, and just don't feel like it's centered around the sport every single time.
Do you think that's tied back to the sport? Like, I know you've been around the Ducks a little bit longer, and you're a tighter knit group. Do you think that translates towards the sport itself, in the sense of, I've known hockey players to be, even like the top athletes they're usually 9 out of 10 more mellow, a lot more laid back than the superstar of another sport. Do you think that's just the breed of what hockey community is?
I think so, and I've been told too, there's been some GMs, execs of other sports who have kind of come on the road as guests back in the day, and they're like, do your guys always go out and eat together? It's like, the hockey players would go out, most part, maybe 2 big groups. It wasn't like the Swedes and the Canadians, or they wouldn't, whatever, although some of those guys will hang out, Ricky and Hampus hang out all again. They're inseparable. But no, they all go together and eat together. They all go out and hang out. And so when you're in the baseball teams, again, it's a lot more guys, but there's a little more groups
clicky
going on there. Yeah, and from what I can see. But yeah, when we go out on the road to dinner, it's like you walk in and there's 15 guys sitting there having dinner. So
cool.
It's cool. It was a baseball GM, I think, and he's like, I've never seen this before. This is really cool how they're together. They're really kind of hanging out. And so it's cool.
Hockey players are laid back, man. Like fighters, you're gonna bash each other, might fight each other on the ice, but then the second it's over, for the most part,
UFC stuff. I've been amazed by when that first came to California, and seeing the respect that those guys had for one another, not pre, because they did their thing, but post, there was certainly a lot of respect. It seemed like
that. Well, I think because there's a level of, it might sound ironic, but there's a level of intimacy because you literally just whooped each other's ass. And so it's
Yeah.
it's like you know what that person went through because you went through it.
Yep.
And not to say that the other sports don't have that, because they very much do.
Right.
But I think when you're physically, your goal is to either knock that person out or put them to sleep, or tap them out or submit them. And a lot of guys take it to that next level where they spend time away from their family, and they're in training camp, and you're literally thinking about your opponent 24/7. And you wake up thinking about them, you train, and you get training partners that kind of simulate them. You go to sleep thinking about them, you're watching film. And so you almost know them, And now with social media, I'm sure you can find out what they're eating and where they're at. And so
Yeah.
there's a big level of respect. I think martial arts in general has that traditionally, where there's a lot of respect and honor.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I think it's a beautiful thing, because I used to get in trouble a lot. I used to go fight a lot and get in trouble, and then once I found, organized fighting, if you will, I earned a respect for it, because you know what it takes to compete at the top level, and the amount of dedication and just effort and time and everything as a whole that it takes is crazy, And so that's why I love talking to people in other sports that have competed at that high level, because their mentality is different, and you can always learn something. There's always something that maybe a Kobe or a Gretzky or a Trout, that like, what do they think? What their mentality is way different, because they're going through different things. Like I would much rather fight for 3 or 5 rounds than play 100 and plus games in a season.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that
true.
to me is insane.
I would.
That is crazy. And you have to sit there. You can't leave at halftime or in the 7th inning and be like, I'm going to go get a drink and a hot dog.
I'm good. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
No, like you have to stay there.
Yeah.
I get to fight and then hang out and watch the rest of the fights, and I'm done. And I get paid for 15 or 25 minutes of work. Now, I prepared for 3 months, but it's awesome. I couldn't do that. I couldn't hang. I don't know how you grew up playing baseball.
Well, I had a hockey player, Andrew Cogliano. He was in the gym at a hotel that we were at in Minnesota, and he even stopped me, and he's like, hey, so how do the baseball guys, they get to August, and you're out of the playoffs, you don't really have a chance. How do they
Still want to
keep
keep
it going?
Playing. Yeah.
That's a long season. It's twice a hockey season.
And they're playing every day, basically.
Yeah, and even like hockey guys will say, other athletes will go, wow, that's impressive. It's a long season, and it might not be as physically, strenuous, but still, it's every day you're going out there mentally. It's a mental thing that you got to be ready to play every day. So, going to what a Shohei Ohtani's doing, hitting and pitching and doing it pretty much, playing every day, doing what most players just do, one or the other. It's truly remarkable mentally what he's been able to do, not only physically, but just staying focused for that long.
But then how do you guys do it too, from a broadcasting standpoint?
It is. It's you got to prepare, and you got to mentally get yourself in the right space, because there've been tough seasons. Like last year, the Ducks were 30th out of 31, and so
bad.
You got to go up there, and you got to find positives, but you have to be honest as well. And there's that balance that you definitely have to walk, because as we've been kind of talking about, you care about these guys, this team, and you know that they're trying, and it sucks. They're losing, and you feel bad for them. But then you have to be, somewhat objective and call it, and say what it is. But you do. And that can be mentally taxing at times, because every game, if you're losing, you got to come up with different ways to try to find a positive. But then talk about the negative, but don't be too negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, being real.
Yeah, and you do want to, and you got to walk that line, because you do. You don't necessarily work for the team, but you care about the team.
Yeah.
So it is. And you're prepping every day, and it's like, how do you come up with a storyline, a different storyline? You look at the Angels, when they struggle, you're still we're very fortunate. We have a Mike Trout now, Shohei Ohtani. We have two of the best players. So there's always some kind of a story to talk about. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Mike Trout leading the show every day is like, well, geez, we're talking about Trout again? You know, like, but most of the time it's because he's doing something great.
Yeah, he's giving you something to talk about.
And, so, yeah, it is. It can be taxing, that way, emotionally taxing. And I come home from a game and I'm still on. It takes me like an hour to come down because I've been on, and sometimes baseball games, whatever, I'm getting home at 12 o'clock at night, and you just, especially when fans were there and you come off a win or whatever, you've been on the entire time, and you're just on still, and so you got to bring it down like an hour, just to bring it back down till I can actually fall asleep.
So you have to be sharp doing that, like you said, the mental preparation to be able to be a broadcaster. Especially when both seasons are going.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how in the heck to keep it fresh, interesting, engaging, not to let people see you as a representation of the team, like basically going through the motions. Like, that's good.
You got it, and you got to bring it too. You got to bring the enthusiasm. Like they got to bring the physicality, and they got to bring whatever they got to bring to their respective sports. But you got to bring the energy and enthusiasm, and you got to want people to want to watch. And be exciting and be excited, even though when it's not as exciting.
Yeah, when it's tough.
And a lot of my prep too, it's like I'll prep. I don't use 80% of the stuff I prep.
Really?
Yeah, because I have such good analysts, and that's another thing about what I do. I'm very fortunate to work with the Brian Haywards and Guy Hebert and Tim Sam and Jose Mota, Mark Gubaza, all those guys that jump in that seat, and they can just take it, and they're awesome. And so, and a lot of times it's like you prep, and they're so good, they're going to take all the stuff that I prep, they're going to say. Because they're prepping too, but they already know it.
That's cool.
It's off the top of their head. I mean, they just know it. And so, and even though I played baseball for a long, long time, I don't see the game the way they do. It's amazing when you sit next to a Tim Sam and I can imagine. He's like, he'll throw him a curveball. Or you should throw him a slider. He's got he's got to be looking at this pitch or for this pitch or whatever it is. And you're going, and Jose Mota the same way. Mark Gubaza the same way, especially with the pitcher. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. Those guys are so good. They played at that level, and they know the game.
So do they give you, is there a lot of like analysis going like by the second type thing? So you have content to be able to talk on?
Yeah, so I have like an outline.
Okay.
And we're just filling in the blanks. And so we're going like tonight. We're talking Shohei Ohtani. We're talking Player of the Week, 6 home runs last 6 games, and then we'll go to in highlights, and then highlights will come up of his last 6 home runs. Gooby will talk through those. In my ear, my producer's telling me what I'm going to go do next, and that's part of the. I guess if you want to compare like the broadcast live TV world to like sports, that's the kind of rush is that you're live and things are changing constantly.
Yeah.
Because like if Gooby's going, he wants to say something else, then we're cutting, we're editing now the back of the show. Okay, we got to cut this. Okay, move past this, go to this next.
That's crazy.
So it's like just being a traffic cop, and then you want your analyst to be able to talk through the highlights because a lot of times I'm not listening. I'm listening. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going next.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So it was funny. Like I worked with a couple before, and they'll stop midway. They're done. And I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, oh, so you jump in and on TV, it's like 1 second seems like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You're like, it's dead air. Oh no, dead air. So now it's just you learn your analysts. And the guys I work with, man, they're so good.
But fun.
I'd say
Yeah. And then we used to do for Kings Ducks games, we used to do 2 1-hour shows.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it because I had we had Peros on, Guy, Sean O'Donnell, and me. It was kind of like an NFL football type deal because we had all the guys, panel. And then I would throw up to Foxy and Bob Miller, and then Johnny and Hazy at the time. So it's like we had so many moving parts, and then we had 2 reporters.
Yep.
And then we had and it was awesome, but it was like
so you
gotta
literally
be on, man.
have to be sharp.
Yeah, it's a rush.
And then
it really is.
Throwing those fans back in too.
Yeah.
I think post game Ducks, they're still screaming behind you, even though you're blocked off. Like
they're still screaming.
Dude, I've been one of those people screaming. But it's like, because you're excited
Yeah.
and you're given you're part of the experience. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I guess I've never really thought about it. So it's kind of cool hearing about it because I've been watching it for 20 plus years, but hearing about it and hearing what you're going through while having to be, doing ABCD, watching here, looking at the TV, that's insane.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that.
Sometimes, like, it's like something's going on or the tape's not working, and they'll go, ask another question. You're like, in my ear, ask another question. Do a follow-up. I need one more.
And you're just
interview's not there yet. Like we're waiting for Joe Madden to come in. The other night we had some technical difficulties with the Joe Madden interview coming in, the audio, because now we're doing everything through Zoom right now still, and something was happening. There was a buzz in the audio, whatever it is, and so like we had to stall, and then we can go to it. We had to wait.
Can you ever say that? Like, hey guys,
Try not to.
we're having technical difficulties.
If I will only say it if you see it, like if the tape were to run and something happened and they could physically see it, but we won't.
Do you have a screen where you can see what the audience is seeing?
Yeah.
Oh, so you'll know.
I'll know.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. So.
Do you get up more like the athletes do for like rivalry games?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, for sure. And I think because the fans help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going back to last year, it was nothing was there.
How tough was that? Even if, like, say the Dodgers come in or
nothing. I mean, it was nothing. Yeah, I mean, you
like,
get fired up, a little bit, but you're like, you're fired up, but you're like, there's nothing there.
Yeah, that's got to be such
You
a mental
score a goal
trip.
and there's no one in there, and I mean, it was bizarre. I was fortunate to do a Padre game last week, and it was the second day of full capacity. They have 40,000 plus people there.
Dang.
Think
Wow.
about, they're all like college students. It seemed like it was beer night, and it was insane.
I'd say it probably felt like the first time for you
It
again.
was insane, and the set that they have there is in left field, so it's in the middle of you're in the middle
That's
of it.
cool.
You have the field behind you, and people are just everywhere. And
Yeah.
and on fire. And they ended up sweeping them, and it was like a playoff atmosphere. It was amazing. I mean, it was a little. I don't know. I think everybody some of us were in shock because we haven't been around that many people. So it was like, what the hell? But talk about getting fired up, man. It's
you have to relearn.
You kick up the audio. You get a little more audible, when people are around.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna have a different perspective on it now. Like when the upcoming season for Ducks starts again, and I get to go to a game, I'm gonna have so much more of a different perspective on it. Because watching it from TV, it's just like anything, right? Like
Sure.
you don't get what they're going through because you're not going through it.
Yeah.
But just even hearing you talk about it, like I can only imagine like the mental drainage that would take. Like, the athletes are doing physical and mental, but like a different perspective. I couldn't do it.
I've never been to one. I gotta go.
Ducks game? We'll go.
Oh man,
The hockey game. I've never
You've
been to a hockey game.
What?
No.
Who are
you
you?
got a contact now, man.
Let's go. We'll go.
I used to
Come
get
on.
punched in the face. That's what I.
I haven't been to a game in a while.
Being football player and a fighter and man, you're gonna dig it. It's the fighting isn't as prominent as it used to be, but it's the
I know, I miss
physicality
it.
is there. It's on. And
That's
you'll appreciate
yeah.
it. The speed and how hard these guys hit.
I heard it's fast.
You can't.
Dude.
You don't know unless you get there.
Come
right?
watch one of our beer league games. It's called beer league for a reason, right? We play in the top beer league, but it's nothing. Come watch one of ours. You'll probably be like, dude, that's fast. Then you go watch them. We look like we're 5-year-olds compared to the pros.
Say, look at a minor league hockey game.
Oh yeah, it's still different
It's
worlds.
incredible. It's like they're skating in mud, and no offense to the guys, but
Yeah.
it's like you always ask the guys, the jump, like if to go to the big leagues in baseball, it's got to hit the curveball, whatever it is. But it's the speed of the hockey game is the guys, they got to get used to the speed and the physicality because these guys are coming. And the whole, you've probably heard the term, you got to slow the game down.
Yep.
That's what everyone says in whatever sport it is. And that's the speed is what is one of the things that you got to get used to when you make that jump to hockey.
Yeah.
I remember that at an NBA game. The first time Dwight Howard was with the Lakers for that 1 year, I went. I was really fortunate. My buddy's uncle had tickets, and they were super close. And these guys are humongous, and they look like ballerinas on the floor. They're just so smooth for how big they are. And I'm just like, oh my god, like that's an athlete.
Yeah.
They're so big, but it's
You can't
gentle. It's smooth is what it is.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It
How
really
good they
is.
are.
It's nuts.
So I think that's one of the coolest things about just athletes in general, whatever sport it is. I don't care what sport it is. You get to a professional level, you are just a freak of nature of a human. Like you're whatever sport it is, you're just.
Oh yeah.
Athletes are just special humans, and I think it's kind of a bummer to. I mean, not to jump into this rabbit hole because that's a totally different podcast and conversation. But like athletes, like they've trained so hard for so long and had a goal and an objective, and then once it's gone, unfortunately, a lot of them end up doing whatever they do or don't have a good future ahead of that. It's sad to see what dedication and drive can get you, but if they don't have guidance for after the game, that's like I was saying another podcast, but it just blows my mind to see what they're capable of, and then what happens because they didn't maybe have a little guidance from someone. And it's the same thing with military guys. Like a lot of my veteran buddies, we got out and there wasn't guidance, right? Like you just went through hell, literal. Yeah. And then these guys come home, and of course that's why they're, doing the stupid things they're doing or getting into the crazy stuff they're getting into because there's no guidance. Yeah.
And one thing in both instances, you're not doing what quote unquote the normal person does. Especially like you're 18, you go to the military, you're there for 4 years, not living a normal 18, 19, 20-year-old lifestyle. And then the same thing with an athlete, they're not living the same type of lifestyle that the normal working dad or husband would be living. Right. And then they get out and you're still having to provide and be the head of the household just in a different way. You can no longer use your body to make you money. It's just crazy because like I tell my wife all the time, I've said it before, like I've been good at two things my whole life. One was athletics. I got paid for that. Done. The other's running my mouth. So now I'm trying to get paid to run my mouth. And so it's really fun and it's unique because I always thought I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and now I really don't after hearing what you do.
I know.
Dude, I don't even...
Hold on. I think it'd be fun for sure as an experience, but traveling 150 plus days, I'm like, oh.
I literally have a different respect for it.
With kids and everything. It's different, and I got a 4-year-old now, so it's the fact that we're home now and we're doing stuff, from remote, from the Big A or Honda Center. That's been a blessing, and you look at those silver linings and things like that. But just to finish a point which you guys are both talking about though too, think about these athletes, and when you're around it, you really see it. For up until they retire, they are told where they need to be, what they need to do. Everything is done for them. Yeah, pretty much. And we joke around. It's like, when does the bus leave? That's all you need to know. Yeah. It's like, when does the bus leave? The bus takes you to the game, the hotel, to the airplane, to whatever. You just need to know when the bus leaves. That's it. Yeah. So and some guys joke. It's like when they retire, they're like, when does the bus leave? It's like you're in that mode because all you need to do is think about one thing: playing hockey, football, fighting, whatever it is. And so everything else is taken care of. The meal, your meals, and where it's there in the clubhouse when you're done or whatever it is. Everything's taken care of for you. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's if you reach the highest level, but then when you come out of that, then it's a little bit different,
It's crazy, and that's a direct correlation to military guys. And there's got to be a better way to bridge that gap from what you're doing to quote unquote normal life. Yeah. But the military guys, same thing. Told when to eat, how to eat, what to eat, when to sleep, when to poop, when to shower, where to be, and you get told what, and then when it's gone, you're like, what do I do? And same with an athlete, but it's like the athlete has the other side too. Now they have if they're smart, have all this money, and that's where the trouble happens, right? The athletes have the money, the military guy has no money, and they're both doing dumb things.
Maybe they need to meet. After the athlete retires, he needs to meet a military person. There just needs to be
better system. Now, I didn't mean to get down in that rabbit hole, but there's
truth to it, though. It is, and we, especially when these athletes are, and that's one thing too. We talked early on about hockey, and sometimes the road. A lot of these guys, the minor leagues. Yeah, there's something to be said about minor leagues, and not only just for your talents, but also just getting used to being an athlete, and then what do you do with your money and controlling yourself financially and those things, right? But sometimes you see these young basketball players, the one and dones, there's no
Yeah.
there's a D League, but most of these guys in top 5 or 6 picks, they jump in, they get multi-million dollars, they don't know what to do with it. So
Yep.
that you run in, you need that education. I think what we're talking about, which makes total sense, and I think they're the financial planners and stuff, and when you come into these leagues, there are people, they try to at least give them some assistance and some help. But you said there's a whole rabbit hole to go down there.
I know.
I think there's player associations that are doing a better job of it, but I don't think, not that I know of, I don't think the league or organizations make it a requirement. And I don't know what it would take to get that, but yeah, I completely agree. I think they need to get financially literate.
Well, along with those, I mean, and actually I'll run off of that one. When you talk about financially literate, but two, with social media being what it is these days, they do have media training. And that's something I've seen in the NFL. I haven't necessarily seen it in some of the other sports, but I think that's huge. How do you speak to the media? What do you say? Because the social aspect of it, you're going to be on TV. It's going to help give you endorsements if you can speak and if you can do these different things and communicate, And I think that it's because again, you grew up playing a sport. You don't have, but having to talk, some of the younger guys now are in front of cameras a lot more because there's so much more out there and they're more comfortable with it. But I think that's something that I think that all athletes would benefit from.
Yeah.
It's scarier now because of social media, I think.
Well, they don't go out.
Now sometimes the organization is a bigger brand than the player. If you look at we're really fortunate to live in Southern California. You got the Dodgers, the Angels, the Lakers, the Ducks, the Kings. I mean, those organizations are historic.
Yeah.
And the Ducks Disney backing them up in 92 or 93 with the movie, and then them being developed that way. It's like they're iconic brands, and sometimes the players aren't at that same level.
Right.
So it'd be kind of scary to go play for a team like that, knowing that you're not going to be bigger than the brand. Or the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is very careful on who he brings in and what he lets his players talk about. Like, wasn't he the coach at one point? He's like the coach and the GM and the owner.
Isn't he still?
I know, right? Well, that's why he's got the.
Someone else just
I don't know.
has a title, but
That's why his sports team's worth the most, though.
Oh yeah,
It's a
nuts.
brand too, and that's kind of what I think you're getting at too. Is these teams are brands, and they're and where they're located, and there's so much money. It's just everything is obviously centers around money, and you just it's tough to get out of it. Some of these sports can't get out of their own way. There's just so much money involved.
It's craziness. Well, my friend, I appreciate you taking the time to come do this before you have to go deal with the chaos.
You gotta go do something else.
Got some fans back. Yeah, we'll see how it rolls tonight. It'll be fun.
Awesome.
Real quick, tell listeners and us where people can find you, all the stuff you're doing. We didn't even talk about your podcast.
Oh, yeah. No, this has been great. So the way I know Ben is he was on the Frenchie's Friends Feature Friday, which is something I do on Instagram every Friday, highlight a local business and let everyone know what they got going on for the weekend and really how you can support them too, because a lot of these businesses now are coming out. If you were able to survive, they're coming out from under the shadows, so to speak, and they're starting to have people there and everything. So just do whatever I can to help. So that's on my Instagram at Kent French, at Kent_French, I think it is. And then on Spotify and iTunes, it's called the Frenchie's Friends Podcast, presented by Green Cheek Beer. And every week, not every week, it's probably once a month now, we talk to a local artist. And kind of how I define that is it's a brewer, distiller, restaurant owner, restaurateur, musician, athlete, and just talk about their craft and kind of what you guys are doing, how they got there, what they're doing, and whatever we can do to help promote them too. So it's been a blast, and that stemmed out of COVID, and we're gonna keep doing it. That's something I've got a passion for now, and I definitely don't want to stop doing that. So it's been so much fun meeting all these great people out there and their stories and the way they've been fighting to stay alive during this tough time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's rad.
Got anything?
Good? No, it was a pleasure. Thank you so
man.
much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, Ben. Another good episode as
Yes,
always.
sir.
And remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it. So, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Fight Within Podcast. Find us on all audio platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you guys like to listen to it. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for continuing to listen to it and watch it. We can see the growth on our analytics and just want to thank you guys for supporting us. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Kingdom Nutrition. Make sure you guys go and visit their site over at kingdomnutrition.com and enter promo code MFW10 to get 10% off your next purchase. Kingdom Nutrition carries the best sports supplements on the market. They manufacture and curate their own line of supplements with the highest quality ingredients, including a lean protein, weight gainer protein, pre-workout, BCAAs, and an array of other products. They've recently created the world's first vegan chickpea protein, and it tastes amazing. I'm a big dude. I like food, and I like chocolate. So when they told me it comes in chocolate and vanilla, I got really happy. But if you're a workout enthusiast and you want to change up your diet, change up your protein, go check out their vanilla chickpea protein. It mixes well with anything. It'll blend great with a smoothie. So to get your hands on any of these products, just make sure and go visit kingdomnutrition.com. Remember to enter promo code MFW10 and get 10% off your next purchase. Let's go.